Hello and welcome to another episode of the Profitable Christian Business. I am so pleased to have my friend Jennifer Elia with me today. Jennifer is a master marketer. She's going to show us a little bit about how to make your business more profitable through marketing and things of that nature. We're going to get into her faith journey. She's has a very interesting life. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how her faith is interwoven through everything that she does. But without further ado, Jennifer, if you don't mind giving a brief introduction.
Yes, so I am a marketing strategist, which means that I help businesses to create systems and a foundation for your marketing so that you know what is going on, it works for you, and everything you do has a job. So I don't teach you the latest hacks or tricks. I don't only concentrate on one platform, but I create that structure so that everything that you're doing works together and it makes it more profitable, it makes it easier to run, it saves you tons of time and money. And it just makes it something that happens as part of your business instead of it just constantly hanging over your head like, I need to do marketing. Um, so,
That is awesome. We're going to dive into a lot of that. But I like to start off each interview with just some casual getting to know you questions because um, I'm all about know, like, and trust. People like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So the more that we can establish some of that, so people get to know you a little bit more, whoever's watching this, and they're like, she's a pretty cool gal. I want, I want to her to help me with my marketing. So one of those things that I know about you is that you are a homesteader. You're also a gardener. My wife's a gardener, so I know a little bit about that. I know how to dig the holes for her that she needs. Um, and of course, you run a business. So tell us a little bit about how the homesteading life is for you.
well, it's busy, especially right now. We live in rural South Dakota, so we have a very short season. So there's a lot crammed into just a few months. So it is very busy, but it's exciting. Really, I like knowing how everything works and where things are coming from and constantly learning how to do new things because I think that it is important to know where our food is coming from and have that connection, but also understand like how does
Froze.
everything work? And so
Can
I
you hear
really
me?
enjoy systems on that end as well. One of my favorite parts of it though is that I did get a dairy goat a little over a year ago, about a year and a half ago. And so that's how I begin my day. And oops.
You're froze.
Yeah, I know. I was talking and then I realized that you were there and oh my goodness, why isn't this working? It's not like I've never done a podcast before. Like,
Same on this side, right? I've only done 100 or more. Well, I'll probably 200 or more than these. But
I don't know
um,
what the problem is. It's just Riverside is not liking me today.
yeah, if
Um,
if you're watching live, this is what happens sometimes. So we might just pick up. We're gonna, because this will be edited. We can just preserve that first part. So now that you're back, not frozen, let's see um how long we can sustain, if you will. So I'll just ask that question again that I just asked, and we'll preserve the intro and your introduction. So I'll do a hand countdown, if you will. Five, four, three, two, one. One of the things I know about you, Jennifer, is that you are a homesteader, which I find fascinating, and you're a gardener. My wife gardens. I know a little bit, and that's like I can dig a hole for her. That's kind of what I know. And you're also running a successful marketing business. So all that is very interesting. But what I want to know, and maybe what the audience would love to know more about, is the whole homesteading, because a lot of people are unfamiliar with that. So can you kind of
yeah.
talk about how that your life is around that?
Yes, so it's busy, especially right now. We're in our busiest time of the year because we have a very short season. We're in rural South Dakota, and so we need to get everything done in a short amount of time. And it's great because it gives us that connection to everything that we do. So everything is based in our home, our business, we homeschool, um, and we get to understand how the world works. And I think that it's very important to our faith journey too, which we can talk about later. But having that connection to creation, um, and I just enjoy learning new skills that have been lost and preserving them, and preserving the food for my family and having a plan in advance, because I'm a planner and a strategy and systems person. But my favorite part of my day, really, that shocks me, to be quite honest, is I got a dairy goat about a year and a half ago. And so every morning and every evening, I start and end my day with milking her. And it's just a quiet time to just like decompress. And we just have that quiet, she eats, I milk, and it's just like my little step away from everything
Mm.
that I can try to kind of like decompress my mind. Like, it's a very soothing thing. It seems like it wouldn't be, but it's just something that I get to enjoy every day. And there are times when my kids have to milk for me for whatever reason, and I always miss that I didn't get to do it. So,
That is so cool.
yeah.
The whole getting back, like getting into nature. So there's a couple things. Normally we don't go too deep in these getting to know you questions, but we're going to go just a little deep here. Uh, the whole getting I like to do that as well, and I don't get to do it often enough. Is getting out in nature to communicate with God. I feel like it's not necessarily true, but I just feel a closer connection when I'm out in nature, and looking at his creation, right? Um, and it's just so wonderful. I imagine you feel that way too when you're um, doing that sort of thing.
Yes, it's still, I've been a gardener for, I don't even know, at least 15 years or more. And it still amazes me that you take this little seed and you put it in the ground and it grows and makes it. And it's always like, wow, I can't believe that worked. And so, every morning there's eggs, and every morning and every evening there's milk. And just the fact that, I just put eggs in the incubator, and like we're going to have ducklings in like a month. It's so fascinating to realize how intricate all of it is. Um, and how it all works really despite us. Like seeds grow. I mean, I fertilize and weed and all of that stuff, but really it's all designed to work without us having to mess with it at all. And it's just very exciting to get to see every day.
That brings me to the all the verses about anxiety in the Bible, because we get so anxious for things, and
Yes.
God, all you have to do is step out and watch how nature's working. It's just out there working. It happens. You can get comfortable knowing that God is in control when you
Mhm.
envision it that way. There is a
Yeah.
time and a season, right? In gardening, and sometimes we're trying to get things out of season,
Yes.
right? We're wanting something, but we're not ready for that thing that God has for us. So many good ways to use nature to think about the way God provides.
Yes. And there definitely is a deep faith part of it. I was talking to my son about it the other day. He runs a small scale regenerative operation, and it's hard. Like, you have these plans, but then you can only control so much. And I said to them, this is why farmers are known to have deep faith, because you have to have faith. You have to realize that you can't control the weather. You can't control what happens to your animals, like predators or things eating your plants, or there's so many things beyond your control, and you just have to have faith that it all is going to work out, and faith that whatever happened, like you can find a way to solve it, or like there's something better that's going to come. And so there are those nights of praying for rain and praying for like predators not to attack. And it's very much a deepening faith journey, because it's not a guarantee. When you go to the grocery store, for the most part you expect there to be milk and eggs and butter, and you know where it is. But here, even though we sit down in February and plan out everything that we're going to grow and all the food that we want to have and what we're going to do with it, like the plan is great, but there's so much out of your control that a lot of it is just prayer and hope.
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
and you can't plan beyond that. So it is a humbling experience that's very powerful.
Oh, I love all that, and I will just say I'm a little envious. We have a small garden.
Uh-huh.
If my wife had more time, our backyard would look like something very elaborate.
Yes.
It's a good sized garden. It's not like where she wants it,
Yes.
um,
In
but
Delaware.
Yeah, I feel that way. Like every time we go to somewhere where they're selling plants, there's never enough plants that she can buy.
Yeah.
um, but the whole being able to eat whole foods, right? We eat what we get from the garden, but we would love to have kind of more what you have. Like almost, I'm sure almost everything you put on your plates comes from your farm, and that is just amazing.
Pretty close. Not everything. We still can't grow bananas in South Dakota.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are some things. So, yeah, it it it's exciting also to sit there and be like, wow, like this is what our all our work
Hmm.
amounted to. It's rewarding in that way.
Nice. Well, we're going to shift gears entirely from
Yes.
the homesteading to more of the marketing.
Yeah.
Is there one kind of trend that's kind of going on now, or you've seen in the past that you kind of laugh at and roll your eyes as far as marketing goes?
I think virality. Like we all
Mm.
feel like we need to go viral. And I'm not saying that more visibility or more views or more comments are ever a bad thing. However, I have yet to see where going viral for, I don't know, a reel or a post or whatever, because I have had some things go viral and it's great. I get some more friends, I get a little boost in my visibility, but honestly, it doesn't do much for your business. And so for business, we sometimes fall into the trap of thinking we need to be by like influencers. Like influencers, virality does help them because they're getting paid by how many people view it, right? People don't really necessarily even go to the rest of their channel or know what they do, but they see this one thing and they share it and they like it and it keeps going. And the influencer makes money even if all of those people have no interest in anything else that they're doing. Whereas when you have a business and you're trying to make money off of a product in some way, just having something go viral and have people like it doesn't mean they're going to buy anything from you, because 90% of them just like that one post. And I can tell you that most of the time it's something completely random that has nothing to do with what you sell. So, yes, it's nice to be able to say, I got, 10,000 or 100,000 or a million views or whatever it is. But if you go back and see what did that do for your bottom line, I think we take way too much time trying to chase that virality instead of trying to think, how can this content get someone to take the next step I want to?
So well said. So well
Yeah.
said. I think along the same lines, and because it's usually something not business oriented that will go viral. Like you have to, and usually it's something stupid. um, that people love to see silly things and funny things and things like that that often have nothing to do with your business. So yes, it can help you with your visibility, but it won't necessarily bring you more clients because they're not watching, they weren't watching it for the whatever you have to provide, they were watching it for the entertainment of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very well said. And I think you and I can agree on this part as far as content. I think the most important part of business content is being consistent, right? To like no matter how many views you're, if you keep showing up, the consistency is going to pay off. Um, so if you want to just provide some insights on that.
Yes. So I always tell my clients that consistency trumps volume every time. And yes, there's a place for volume, and volume does get you more visibility. However, we sometimes fall into this trap of, well, I'm going to do 50 posts this week and I'm going to post, 7 times a day, and then that works for maybe 4 days. And then you like don't do it, and then you just do 2 posts, and then all of a sudden 3 weeks went by and you didn't do anything, and then you jump. And that is actually so much worse for you than if you said, you know what, I can post 3 times a week and I'm going to post at 10 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday, every single week. Because we complain about the algorithm, and there are wonky algorithms out there right now. And sometimes it does go off the rails and you're like, I don't understand why nothing's working. It's because the algorithm shifted. But at the same time, the algorithm is something that's trained. And so if you are putting out content and it learns what type of people like your content and what you talk about and when you show up, and that you're putting out content regularly and being visible and engaging with people, you're not just, throwing everything out there and then never showing up, it will serve that to more people. And so that's why when you put out more content, you get more connection requests or you get more views. It's because the algorithm's learning, hey, this is who she wants to talk to. This is what she talks about. And these are the people that she can help and, what she's doing. And so it brings those people to you as opposed to virality, like we just talked about, which just brings anybody, right?
Hmm.
Anybody who would be interested. And we don't want anybody. We want our content to be polarizing in some way, not in a highly negative way, but that people who are like, yeah, that's not what I need, they just go someplace else because they don't need to waste their time and energy, and neither do we. And there's someone else out there who could serve
Man, I love how you said that is exactly how I feel too, is that consistency is what pays off,
them.
because it's data in. You're feeding the algorithm data on a regular basis. And in all my tests and experiences, like the more consistent I am, the more it grows. And the more, not just consistent in just posting, consistent in the messaging, right? If you're all over with your messaging, the algorithm doesn't know who to serve it to.
Yes.
So, um,
and and we think we need to keep talking about new things, but we don't. You really should get bored with what you're talking about. I mean, I'm really passionate about what I talk about, but sometimes it's like, oh, I guess I should bring that up again. Because statistically, only 2% of your followers will see and possibly remember what you put up. So even if you have 1 million followers, there's such a small percentage of them that are seeing it and remembering it, that if you only put that up once and you think, oh, nobody was interested, I better scrap that, let's come up with a new plan, like nobody signed up, nobody likes it, nobody commented, you're constantly putting new things out there. People don't have a chance to even learn what you're doing. They don't have a chance to understand like who you are and how you serve, or that you have this program, right? Because you put out 3 posts, or you did one live, and lives are great and reels are great and stories and LinkedIn and all of that. But if it's one and you think of 2%, most of us don't have 1 to 10 million followers. 2% is so small, and then only a percentage of them are even going to be interested in it at that point in time, and make the decision. So it really is important to have that consistency and like pick one thing you want to talk, like one thing that you want people to go towards, um, maybe per quarter or per year, even per month, not where every day is something different. Um, yeah, you need to test things for quite a while to evaluate that nobody's interested in it.
yeah, and I feel like branding is important there too. Like people see the same thing over and over again, and they correlate you with your brand and you with what you're messaging. If you can constantly, if you're very good at articulating exactly what you do and how you do it, and you say that over and over again, um,
Yes.
it's going to get a better response. So
Yes, yeah, yeah. I heard once that the best marketing is when you can have someone come sit down with you and they can tell you your story back. And I know that that might
yeah,
be a little extreme with all the content that we have going on, but really you want people when they meet with you either face to face or, decide to opt into your newsletter or whatever it is, that they understand exactly who you are and they can tell other people what you do, because that's still, word of mouth is still the best marketing and it always will be. So,
yeah, go back to the whole know, like, and trust thing,
yeah,
right? That's another reason to stay consistent in your
yeah,
content is you're getting more people to know you, hopefully like you.
yeah,
I did so. Let's sit here for a second because you did a presentation at an event we were at, and I think there was something about you don't necessarily have to have them like you. So if you could expand on that.
yes. I said that we always say no, like, and trust, but really what they have to do is trust you,
Hmm.
because there can be things that you don't
Hmm.
know. Like someone says, hey, you have to buy this shampoo, or hey, you need to sign up for this webinar, and you just do it because, well, I really trust Doug and he said to use it, so I'm going to use it, right? And you know nothing about that company other than my friend Doug says this is a great thing. The same with, like, I mean, there are things that we do or people that we follow that we know have really good advice, but we don't necessarily like them. Like, we wouldn't be best friends with them. We're not going to hang out on a Saturday night, and even if we were to meet in real life. And I think that there are several, I guess you could say, influencers in the marketing world that I follow because I know that they know what they're doing and I trust what they're sharing because they have consistently over the years shown that, okay, I'm not just throwing this out there so that people are going to watch it or, basing it on some latest trend. Like I have data to back it up. I am walking the walk. I'm doing exactly what I'm teaching people to do, which is a huge thing because there are so many people not doing what they're teaching. That should be a red flag for you. Um, at the same time, we have very different worldviews. Like we have very different lifestyles. Even if we were to meet, like I said, and get to be connected, we're never going to be best friends. But I truly respect and trust what they share. And so I think that that's why trust is more important than anything. You don't have to be fun and boisterous. You don't have to be stylish. You don't have to, fit into any of those things that we feel make people like us because they really just need to trust us. They may not like that I homestead, but they may trust my strategy. And those are the people that I want to come into my world.
Yeah. So well put. And I feel like people can get into the trap of, I've just got to get everybody to like me.
Yes.
No, not necessarily.
Oh,
You actually want to push some people away.
yes.
If you want to attract the right people,
Hmm.
and there's going to be some people. I've always heard like you kind of know when you've made it when you've got haters,
Yes,
right? Uh,
you do.
so,
Yeah.
so yeah, you don't need everybody to like you. They just need to trust you. Some people could have totally different values and still think that you have very sound advice.
Yes.
So.
Yes, definitely.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode.
As a Christian entrepreneur, we want to give you something for free. If you go to clientsforthekingdom.com, we have an ideal client avatar generator on there for free. It's something that we've spent thousands of dollars on, countless hours out, and building out this structure of showing you who your ideal client avatar is and an offer stack that can work for your business.
Enjoy the rest of the episode. We have a question that we ask every single time on the Profitable Christian Business Podcast, and that is our fill in the blank question. And your fill in the blank question, Jennifer, is a Christian entrepreneur can avoid burnout by blank.
Having systems. Like it really all comes down to
Yes.
systems in your life, in your business, in your homestead. Like it's all just systems. And whenever things feel like they're going off the rails, that's when it's time to just say, okay, you can blame the algorithm, you can cry, you can think that like the internet doesn't like me, and you know what, there's a place for that, and sometimes you need to just cry and like move on. But it really all comes down to a system. Like, why am I struggling? It's because there's not a system in place. And because when you're trying to do it all, like you can't. You need something you need to have structure. If you're reinventing the wheel every day, you're never going to get anywhere. So
It's the only way to scale. For those listening, it's the only way to scale is putting in systems. A lot of people cap out because they failed to put in the systems as
mhm.
they went along, and then they hit a plateau because now they're having to put in those systems before they can scale. Um,
Yes.
if you if you're growing your business and you're like, I wish I could make this easier. Okay, think about the system that you can put in place to make that easier, and then you're stepping up. The next step is the next process, and so on and so on. We just recently in our company, we had a conversation just earlier today about, we know someone that is a client of ours that would totally bust through the roof. They have so many other great assets. They're just missing a few systems. If they put those systems into place, watch out. Right?
And the systems are boring and sometimes they feel like I'm wasting time. I want to be making money, but you can't, it doesn't work. And so I have been a year ago I was like, okay, this is where I want to be. And I put all these systems in place that really were overkill for what I was doing, quite honest. But I didn't want to get to the point where it's like, oh no, nothing's working. And now I need to try to reverse engineer it and don't have the time or capacity or, like people, I have all these people waiting for things to work and they don't work. Um, but at the same time, like now I've reached another spot where it's like, okay, this is what I want to do. And I'm putting in systems that I can tell you, like the transition is hard. I like what I'm doing right now, but I know it's not going to work in 6 months. And so I need to force myself to like, this is a better system. just develop the habit of using it and refine it, instead of like hitting the wall and realizing, oh no, like we have no system in place to deal with this. And there's always going to be times where you're like, wow, okay, that was a hole in the system that we need to fix.
Mm-hmm.
It's never bulletproof. But when you're at least thinking about it ahead of time and you stick to your systems, I think that's a big thing, is that sometimes we have systems and we have
Mm.
processes, and then because we want people to like us, or we think, oh, this is a nice client, like I want to work with them, we skip steps or we compromise like in the process. And I can tell you every single time it backfires, every single time. And then it's like, Jennifer, what did you do? Like you had a process and you skipped it. And so I think that it's important also to have that system, because if you run into someone who doesn't want to go into the system that you have, you can either say, persuade them and help them move, or if they're like, I'm just not doing it, I need to do my system, which isn't working, by the way, then you're like, you know what, I can refer you to somebody, but like this is how I make it work, and I can't make it work unless you let me help you make it work. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that that is so true. I want to leave the audience with a practical step here.
Okay.
One of the things that we help people do is through time blocking, right? Prior, like you plan out your week, you plan out your days, you plan out yours. You need to set aside some time blocking to work on systems, because if
Yes.
you don't make it a priority, if you don't make time for it, you will not do it. You'll just continue in the old broken way that you've always been doing it. So advice: look at your schedule. Maybe you take an hour or two out of the week and just review your system, see if there's anything new to implement, and get to work on getting those systems. And if you need help, like with a marketing system, know who to reach out to, like Jennifer, because a lot of times it's just ignorance of not knowing the systems we need to put into place. We know something's broken, but we don't know how to fix it because we don't know what system needs to be put in place. And it all depends on what area of your business that's in, whether it's an operations or it's a marketing or it's a sales process or something like that. The person that you might need to bring in as a consultant, or to maybe even handle that side for you. So, um,
Yeah. Yes, because systems don't just happen. You need to make them happen. And it's like I said, they can be boring, they can be tedious. It's never something that you're like, oh, wow, that was amazing. It's amazing when it works, but in the process, especially when you don't necessarily know what you're doing or it's a struggle, you do need that guidance. And then it makes your life so much better on that other end. But yes, you need to block out time or it's not going to happen.
so I think this segues really nicely into our secret question. And the secret question we have for you is, what is the secret to having a profitable marketing campaign that doesn't take all of your time and energy?
It comes back to a system. It comes back to knowing, you know, when we set up marketing campaigns, it's not that we don't have a goal. I think most people have an idea in mind of what they want to happen. You know, like I want more leads, or I want more people to buy this product, or there's a loose goal there. The worst one is I just want more people to see me, because like more people will see you when you're doing the right thing for marketing, but that shouldn't be your goal. You don't need more people, you need the right people. Um, but when you go and say, okay, in 6 months, I want to have 10 people in this program, or I want to have scaled this to this much recurring revenue, or and it doesn't even have to be a dollar amount. It's just that I want my business to be here. Then you have to work backwards of what does that mean has to happen now, and more importantly, like what marketing message needs to go out, how often does it need to go out, how many weeks in advance. And I'm telling you, you need so much more than you think you need. Like you need minimum 3 months, really. If you can have a 3 month leadway, runway, then that will work. And so the secret to not burning out is, first of all, giving yourself plenty of time and understanding that it takes time to get going. Do not give up after 3 days. Have a plan of what is going out and why it's going out and how that brings people to that destination. And then have a plan B, because not everybody's going to buy into that thing that you want to sell 10 of, but they might buy into a lower ticket, or they might join a nurture sequence to get them into like the next, event or whatever. So I think those are the biggest things. When we put all our eggs in one basket and a lot of pressure on us to do something in 2 weeks, it's just designed to fail, and it's just not fair to us or our audience.
Yeah, that's so. I love what you had to say in there, specifically about a runway. So often we don't give ourselves enough runway, especially if it's something brand new that we're doing, right?
Yes.
That we have this vision. Oh, because I want the customers tomorrow. This needs to happen tomorrow.
Yes.
But you have to have a really good runway and a system, right? One thing, if I could add to that, is the importance of data, right?
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
times you don't know because you don't know, right? So I know you're very big on this. Is once you run something, you'll get back some data, and then you'll be able to optimize off of that data. And it's very good to have someone in your corner like Jennifer, who will help you look at the data and say, okay, this is our results from that. This is how we can tweak things in order to get better results.
Yes.
So
Instead of
we'll love more
scrapping it all.
insights on the data. Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise you just toss it all out and say nothing worked. And then you start over, and then you're constantly starting over, and you have nothing to base. Like, it is trial and error. I mean, all business is trial and error, and it's a lot more failing than it is success. Like, I'm being honest. Like, that's what it is. I'm sure you would agree. But that failure isn't really failure unless you don't learn from it. And the only way you're going to learn from it is having that data and taking a step back and looking at what is working, what isn't working, and possibly meeting with an expert that can tell you there's a hole right here that you're missing, because that's generally what it is. It's just a hole that you're missing.
Yeah. Sometimes you try to skip a step or something else that made it all go awry. What do you feel like the biggest mistake a lot of businesses make when they overcomplicate their marketing?
They're putting too much time and resources into it, and then not the time and resources into the actual client acquisition. So they're putting so much time into their content, or engaging with other accounts, or whatever they're doing that they feel is important. But then they don't have a sales system. Like, if you have a marketing system, you need a sales system. If you have marketing out there, you need to have time that you can meet with people, that you can have conversations with them, that there's some sort of follow-up. You can't just say, well, have the marketing do it for me. No, you need to be selling, and marketing needs sales needs marketing. And so I think trying to rush that and just focus on the content is like, they start with the content instead of starting with the plan of what's this content going to do. But also they try to skip steps. So they want to shortcut things. I see an influencer doing this and they went viral, so I'm going to go viral. Or I hear that Facebook ads are like really great and they're going to get me all these clients, and I can have 100,000 people see what I'm doing in one day for $20. It never works that way, by the way. But ads only work when everything else is working. Everything is built on top of itself. So if you're at this point that you're still trying to clarify your message, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to dump money into ads, it's not going to work, because the algorithm hasn't been figured out who you're serving. You don't have a message dialed in that people understand what it is, and you haven't tested any of your systems to know that when someone sees that ad, now they're going to get put into a nurture sequence, or they're going to get invited to this, or they're going to book a call with you, or whatever it is. Until that can happen manually and you have spent hours doing it and you're like, okay, this is what works, you can't automate it and you can't shortcut it. It doesn't matter how great AI gets either. I'm just going to throw that out there. AI is valuable, but like, it can't shortcut things, because it needs to actually happen in real time for you to understand how to create a shortcut in the system for it.
Yeah, that's so good. Can we kind of peek under the hood a little bit with ads,
Yes.
and the importance of? We talked about data. A lot of kind of what you said. Some people would just go out there and throw an ad up and say, "Okay, bring me the clients." Can you talk about like the importance of testing and, again, analyzing the data and that sort of stuff?
Yes. So ads is a process. I think that, I mean, I did it when I started business. I thought everybody says ads will work. You just throw an ad out there and then you spend money. And it was like, why didn't it work? I guess nobody wants my business. It's like, no, it's because you don't have that. It's like scaffolding, right? And ads has its own scaffolding. Like, it isn't just the ad. It's the whole process before and after it. So first of all, you need to have that clear message and the consistency and the audience and the trust, and knowing that your systems work. And then you can start ads. But ads really is I heard someone say you have to be willing to lose money for 3 months. before you make any from ads. And I think that that is really good advice, because I'm not saying that you're going to crash and burn for 3 months, but if you're not at that point that you're going to put something out and test it and have like A/B testing and say this worked and that didn't work, or this audience, I got tons of people signed up for the webinar, but no one showed up and no one bought. So like, this is not my audience. Like, where you can keep refining it, it is an art and a science, and you need to, it's not just about, this comes back to AI. Like, it's helpful, right, with ads, because it can help take language that's way too wordy or vague, and it can boil it down and make it, to the point, and really help you in that way. It can generate graphics if you wanted them. I feel like they all look very generic, and that doesn't help, um but it's not like, that's not ads actually. That's, it's just like doing marketing where the TikToks and the reels and the articles are the last step. Like that, the creative and the copy is the last step. You need to have like the audience and the testing and the data and the systems for it to work. And that is a very complex, it's a complex setup that isn't something you can do overnight, and you need to be willing to do it for 3 to 6 months before you get it right. And it's like, okay, now this is working, now how do we scale this? Because sometimes like an ad doesn't work, and then you change it, and then you change it, and then you change it, and then you have 20 different ads running for 2 weeks at a time, and you never know what's working or what's not working in them, because you're just changing everything. It needs to be a very slow process based on data.
That's so good. And if I could use this analogy, and I think you might agree with me, some people hear, like, a lot of people say, well, I put $1 in ads, I get $3 back.
Yes.
They don't hear about the iceberg, the part
Yeah.
that went into getting the $3
Yeah.
back. So it's more like, it's not like an ATM, people.
No.
It's not like it is more of an investment. Think of it as investment. Sometimes you have money and it's going to produce results, not now, in the future.
Yeah.
But I think there are ways to kind of set yourself up for success. One of those is getting help from an expert, right? And then another one is doing research. A lot of people go into it and they don't even research their industry, like what has been the success rate of people in their industry with ads. There, you can get that kind of data, and kind of know like what the benchmarks are for your industry, and try and hit those benchmarks. And yeah, so
Yeah.
very, very good.
And even like research, yes, you're speaking my language. I was actually originally my first degree was in poli sci, and my minor was in history, because I just love doing research and writing papers. That was my first degree. But and then I realized I didn't really want to write papers for the rest of my life, so I have two other. Anyway, so research is so important though, and it's so discounted, because we look at the vanity metrics of likes and comments, or maybe we will look at analytics a little bit, and we're like, oh, there's more people following me. But it takes the research. Like, you can do this the long way and just keep throwing out A/B tests and figure out what your audience responds to, or you can do the research on your audience of like, what's keeping them up at 2 a.m. What questions are they asking Google? What false beliefs do they have? Because we're experts, right? And we talk about what we're an expert in, but we don't realize that our client isn't an expert in that, and they need to hear certain things that build that trust and empower them to take that next step. And when we're too busy talking up here and they're waiting for someone to help them take that next step, then we miss so much opportunity. So research on both ends, like research how marketing should work and how ads work and all of that, and the sales end of it, but also on the clients and the industry and the audience that you need to build is so important. You don't just want a huge audience, you want the right people, so you're speaking their language.
Yeah, I think all that plays into, we talked about having a runway, and having a runway for ads. You can shorten that runway or get a faster jet, if you do the research and
Yes,
maybe hire
definitely.
an expert to help you. So
Yes.
very, very, very
Yeah.
good. We're going to transition again back to so I think this has been amazing. Like, as much as the marketing knowledge, I think somebody could take this, and there's so much application that they could do, um, and really get a good start
Yeah.
with their marketing. At least especially getting in the right mindset. I think we've really helped people get in the right mindset around their marketing, and kind of see how it goes. I want to go back to some of the faith stuff, because we really haven't learned a lot about you and that journey. So, how has faith? This is going to tie into marketing a little bit. How has faith influenced the way you approach marketing and serving your clients?
Do everything, I want to serve my clients well. And I realized that a lot of what was going on out there that they were telling you to do really wasn't working. Like, it was showy and maybe it went viral, or it may help them sell all these courses because I supposedly made $1 million doing this, but it wasn't actually something that worked. And I realized that to work in integrity, I had to find something that worked. I couldn't, and I know that there have been people that have been frustrated with me and haven't worked with me because they're like, all I want is a big audience on TikTok. And I'm like, that's not what you need, though. Like, you need the system to make this work. You need to figure out how to make this profitable. Like, I don't want you doing all this work. I want you to figure out how you're making money. And I know of at least one person that was like, you don't understand. And I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry, I can't help you. But I think that I know that in the end, we all have a mission, right? Like, all of us were created for a reason, such a time as this. And it's not just the period of time that we live in, it's the gifts that we've been given, it's the opportunities that have opened. I never really pictured that this is what my life would be, but this is where God led me and the doors that He opened. And sometimes I'm like, why do I own a SaaS platform and do marketing strategy? Like, I don't understand, God, like what you were thinking. This wasn't my idea, but He's like, this is what I want you to do, like, this is what I gave to you. And I was like, let's just find something else. And it's always like, no, this is where I put you. This is what I want you to do. And it's because, what I've come to realize is that, because I've struggled with it, really, I feel like I'm not a high tech person. Like, I am not an influencer type. I don't need to be the star of attention, as far as marketing and stuff. But what He's placed on my heart is that I feel very strongly in having small businesses, like local brick and mortars, family run businesses, businesses that, like we run, small companies or teams or agencies. I think that that is so important to have. And when I say small, I don't mean like, they're only making $10,000. I mean, it's not like this huge conglomerate that owns everything and is going to buy everything out. These small businesses are what protect our freedom. They're what create legacies for families. They're what support communities. And when people get upset about Main Street dying, or, shifts in the market that hurt this sector or that sector, it's because of those ripple effects. It's really, everybody's like, oh, it's just nostalgia, you need to move forward. It's like, no, when a Main Street dies, it ends like a heritage. It changes the whole legacy of the area. It changes family dynamics. And it's so important for those missions to be fulfilled.
Jennifer, I have some questions around your faith journey through all of this. You've shared a lot of really, really good insights on helping someone with their marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the faith aspect a little bit. So, how has your faith influenced the way you approach marketing and serving your clients?
Well, let's take the marketing part of it first. There's a lot of, I guess you call it, showboating and glitz and glamour that can come into marketing. And not that any of that is bad, but I think that there are a lot of people, either in the coaching or marketing world, that's what they push. And on the back end of it, it's not really developed. So it's a lot of show on the front, but then how people deliver on the back end, or what that person actually can do and know, aren't solidified. So integrity is a huge thing, because I feel like I can I can choose to be, first of all, who God created me to be, but also I can build those relationships that, God has ordained for me to build. And marketing really is about relationships. It's not about the glitz and the glam. Those are all nice. They're wonderful, but they need to come after that integrity and those relationships, because we are created for relationships. We are created in relationships. And like, that's where we thrive and how we can serve best. And so if we are just looking for the vanity metrics, if we are just looking to be like the influencer, chase all the trends, or be somebody that's like, oh wow, I can't believe the reels that they make, that can be part of who we are, because some people, like, that is their personality, but it still has to come from, we're doing that to build a relationship with the person that we're on a mission to serve. So that's the biggest thing. As far as business, I think it's hand in hand. Is a lot of that authenticity and the integrity, because I have, as a client and as a service provider, worked with so many people in online business that it's kind of like, I live in South Dakota, so there's all those old towns that they have the super tall buildings, but behind it was only like 3 rooms to make it look like it was bigger than it was. And so there is some of that, like, you need to show up in authority. You need to show up as someone who is ready to take on the world, but you also need to be honest with people. And so I know sometimes I'm honest to a fault. However, I would rather be more honest and have people say, yeah, you could have not shared all of that, or you could have not shown up in that way, than have people question my integrity and if I am doing what I say I'm going to do. Especially since I don't necessarily have a Christian business, but I don't hide the fact that that is how I run my business. I'm not like, putting my lamp under a bushel basket. So people come knowing that that's how I'm presenting myself. And I feel like that puts extra burden on, you need to live up to that, because if you're going to be a light, you need to show that you're being a light, not just for your own sake, but to actually radiate light out.
Yeah. A couple of things in there. One of those is hard truths. Sometimes you have to give the hard truth to your clients. And I think this is a business lesson for a lot of people, is that you may want to try and ease things over, sugarcoat things, but sometimes what your client thinks, what their expectation is not possible at the time frame that they're in. So a lot of times it will lead people to promise things that they cannot deliver because they want to just please their client. But the client will much more appreciate it if you give them the hard truth right then and there. And most of the time they'll be like, thank you for that. Now let's proceed.
Yeah. Right. Or there is also that shiny object and the, everything that we go through that people sometimes get caught up in, that leads them not to do what they need for their business, because a lot of what I do is business development with people. And so they see so-and-so is doing this, like, oh, I need to do that. It's like, no, you don't need to do that. Like, you need to be doing this. And sometimes there is that tough love. And I think good coaches will show up with that tough love. They're not just always going to tell you everything's great, which is why I question people are like, oh, we don't need coaches. We have ChatGPT. ChatGPT always tells you it's a great idea. And it's not. Like, it's not necessarily a great idea. And so I guess it was about 6 months ago, I had a client that I had been working on, and it's not that she wasn't working, but she kept getting stuck with taking that next step, right? And then she'd be like, oh no, I think I need to refine my offer. Oh no, I think I need to do this. And finally the one day she's like, what do you think about this? I'm like, this is what I'm telling you. We're not allowed to talk about anything again until you do this. And when you do that, then you can come back and talk to me about stuff. And when I sent that out, I'm like, I hope this doesn't come harsh, but she's like, you know what? That was exactly what I needed to hear. And so I think sometimes, like you said, we have to not be afraid to show up in that honesty that isn't always flowers and rainbows, but is actually going to help somebody grow. If we're really going to be in integrity, like, we're not there to just hear on everything. We want them to actually make progress.
The other piece that I picked up from that was short-term vision or long-term vision, and that's relationship building, right? Yes. You can look to make that quick money, but you're burning so many bridges that it's not going to last. When you operate in integrity and you're about the long-term vision, not just for your business but for your clients, that's going to pay off much better. It's just you have to have that long-term vision and not that short-term.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, that churn and burn model is what a lot of businesses adopt, and that's how they grow so fast. But it's all smoke and mirrors, because as fast as they're growing, it's falling apart. And so, in 2 years, they're just going to be building something else because they've burned all their all their bridges of anybody who
Mm-hmm.
could stay with them. Um, so I would say, I think sometimes it's a little bit harder to work within that faith construct, but in the long term, it does serve you, like you're saying. And so sometimes we can get frustrated because we're like, oh, look at so and so, and they did this in like 6 weeks. First of all, what you see on social media isn't always true. Like they may say it took 6 weeks or took
Mm-hmm.
24 hours, and it could be that it was 3 years in the making. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
just always know that every overnight success took multiple years. Um, but also staying true to ourselves and being able to, yeah, build that bridge and have that long-term vision. In the long run, our businesses will grow and they'll have longevity. Most businesses don't even make it to the second year.
Mm-hmm.
So, realize that a lot of what you see, it goes up real fast, but it also comes down even faster. And so I think that faith journey is important. Also, there's so much that can go wrong in a business. There's constantly ups and downs and booms and busts,
Mm-hmm.
and difficult seasons. And I think as business owners, we don't want to talk about that because we feel like if we say that to someone, then that means that, oh, we're failing, because there's this concept that if your business is successful, that means that every day you just have money rolling in, people are banging down your door, and nothing ever goes wrong. And it's not true. Even in the biggest businesses, they have times where they launch something, it's a complete
Mm-hmm.
flop, or all of the technology goes down and it's a disaster. And it happens. It's part of life in a fallen world. And so having that expectation that, oh, if this is the right business, because I've heard people say, well, if it's the right business and God wants you to do it, then everything will fall into place. And I'm like, yes and no, because everything falling into place doesn't mean you don't have to work for it, right? Um,
Yep.
so just having that knowledge that you are going to have to work for it. And if anything, you're going to have to work harder because you're trying to do it the right way and you're doing it in faith. So there's going to be more resistance than the people who are doing it out of self-interest or out of some sort of woo-woo or secular viewpoint. Like, you're going to have to work harder, but at the same time, you have the master of the universe behind you. And so what you do will prosper in the way that it's meant to prosper if you are willing to show up. I always say, we think that when things are great or a miracle happens, it just like falls out of the sky and everything is wonderful. But when you read through the Bible, like Joshua is one of my favorite examples. Jericho didn't come down because he showed up and God was like, oh, sit down, eat some grapes, drink some wine, like the walls, watch the walls fall. He had to actually do the work. And imagine walking around for 7 days with all these people who are like, this is never going to work. This is never going to work. Why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot of what business is like. You're walking around and people are telling you this is never going to work. Why are you making
Mm-hmm.
it? You just go get a real job, right? We've all heard
Mm-hmm.
that. And then the walls come down and it's like, oh, you could do this. The doubters never go anywhere, but it's just you need to prove yourself and you need to put in the work that God puts in front of you for it to work.
Yeah. Uh, so much in there. Building a solid foundation, like it's kind of like you said. If you build, it may rise up quickly, but if you build a weak
Yes.
foundation, it's just going to fall right over.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a matter of time. So,
Mhm.
love that. So that's a great tip for anyone watching as well. That
Yes.
it's better to grow strong and slow rather than fast and weak.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't want to be
So
one hit wonders. So
So let's talk about prayer. This is the Global Week of Prayer. I don't know, probably when you're watching this is not the Global Week of Prayer,
yes.
but when we're recording this, we're in the Global Week of Prayer. So talk a little bit about how prayer and discernment works through your business, how you approach opportunities and all of those type of things.
Well, first of all, I come up to my office every morning and I have like my devotionals and my prayer books and my glasses so I can actually read them and everything. And I spend time in the morning like praying through those devotionals, but really it's like, okay, this is where you ordained me to be, is in this office and to run this
Mm-hmm.
business, to support my family on this farm that I'm running. um, And so this is where I'm going to meet you. And, just show me what I'm supposed to do today. And there are times where there's like heated discussions involved in that. You want me to do this, I don't want to do it. Or you wanted me to do this and it doesn't seem like it's working. But I think that it all comes back to that foundation that sometimes we feel like we need to just do stuff. And I am a doer. Like I would work 24 hours a day if like my body didn't give out at some point. But I've found that the days when something happens, and there's always, again, it's life in a fallen world, like the kid gets sick or the dog runs away or whatever interrupts me having that routine in the morning. And then I get to the end of the day and I'm completely worn out. I'm frustrated. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't know why we're doing any of this. And then I realize I'm like, oh, I didn't start where I was supposed to start. I didn't start from, okay, I'm going to praise you. I'm going to thank you. I'm going to listen for instruction. And I'm going to discern what is best in the plan that you have given me. I mean, there are things that could be best in a optimal business plan that right now isn't the plan that God has given me. It isn't the season. It isn't the structure. It isn't the mission. And I really, every once in a while, I need to come back and reassess that. And that's part of what I do every quarter when I do my planning. But more importantly, I look at what happened, like what clients came in, what clients went out, what did well, what didn't do well. And in all of this, what was I doing just because I felt people wanted me to do rather than I felt like God created me to do this? And like, where is he leading me? And that always has to be part of it, because at the end of the day, God created this whole idea of me of me having a marketing strategy business in rural South Dakota and all of this. And there are some times where I think like, okay, what were you thinking? Like what made this be the thing that I was created to do? And maybe, and in those desperate moments when I'm overwhelmed, sometimes I'm like, I don't know that this is what I'm supposed to do. But then when I sit there, I'm like, no, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like deep down inside of me, and I think it's because of that prayer and that constant discernment of, I have this opportunity, but is this opportunity what's going to further my mission? Or is it just like something, let's say, that would be nice to say yes to, but it's going to distract me from what I'm supposed to be doing? And so it's that constant discernment of, where am I being led astray or distracted, or what's just interfering with what I'm really trying to do? And when I do those things, it looks great on paper, but I can tell you deep down inside, I feel very conflicted. I feel worn out. Like I don't really want to do it. And so I think it's important for us to, again, come back to that mission. Like, what is our mission? Why do we have that mission? How are we going to fulfill it in a meaningful way that may not look like success on Instagram, but it's a success in that journey that God has placed us on. And at the end of all of it, we'll be able to look back and see what that purpose was. And that isn't to say you settle or you don't strive or you don't have goals, but all of those have to be within the confines of like your faith and where God's leading you. Because otherwise, that's why so many stars, like we look like, oh, they have everything, right? And inside they're just completely dead and hollow, because they're not being true to themselves. They're not being true to who God created them to be. And they have everything, but yet they have nothing. And I think that's important to remember also, is like, what are the gifts that we've gotten? What are the blessings that we've gotten? Not just dollars and cents. Like your life is never, your value of your life. I just had this discussion with my 21-year-old a couple weeks. I'm like, the value of your life is never in how much money you're getting paid or what your title is, ever. Even if you're a pastor or you're a missionary or like, things that we would think like, oh, that's not your identity. That's not never what it's wrapped up in, because at any time that can be taken away from you. You have to be grounded in, this is who I was created to be, and this is how I'm going to live out that mission. So, yeah.
Yeah, alignment. Yeah, key word in there is being aligned with your faith through the whole thing. One of the things that was going through my head as you were speaking was, as Christians, I feel like this can be the struggle.
Yes.
God has told us that this is how I want you to go, and we're praying, and we keep moving forward, and our selfish or selfishness comes into play, and we're like,
Yeah.
God, I want this now, but I'm
Yes.
going to keep going. It hasn't happened yet. I'm keep going.
Yes.
I would like to have it now. So I think that's why it's really important to be in prayer every day.
Yes.
Because to get that renewed faith in that what you're doing is what God has called you to do, and you keep pressing forward. So
definitely. Yeah.
that
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was reading through passages in Exodus the other day, and I'm not even sure how I ended up there, but it was all about the quail, like, the people wanting the quail and the manna. And we always look at that as like, oh, God gave them manna and God gave them quail, so he always provides. And I'm not saying he does. He always provides. But if you really look at what happened and what precipitated him sending quail and manna, it was because they had gotten so disgruntled in their mission and had gotten distracted, and we're looking at like, oh, why don't we have this and why don't we have that? And like, if you really cared about me, like everything would, we would just been zapped into the promised land, and like we wouldn't even have to walk through a desert. And it made me realize like, oh, you know what, we're looking at that completely the wrong way. Like, even when we're in that grumbly, lost place, God still ministers and provides for us. But think of how, like, I thought, like, what would have happened? Maybe it would have been 40 days. Maybe it would have been like, maybe they would have just miraculously just ended up there the next day if they had just kept that vision. And it's hard. It's easy to say, it's hard to do because we all have that fallen nature, and our world is not, they were in more of a world that was focused on that, and they had the pillar of fire and everything. They still couldn't do it. But I think that there is that sometimes we're like, oh, well, this is the right thing. Everything, all the provision should come, like all the abundance should come. And they didn't see where the provision was. And I think that's important for us to remember, that the provision sometimes isn't, we get this, 6-figure client. Sometimes the provision is that we build that relationship, we create a legacy, we have what we need, and we're living the life that we are so blessed and happy to live. And there's so many people that don't have that opportunity, either because they feel stuck, or there's a desert that they need to go through, or there's circumstances that they need to get the tools to overcome. And so those of us who have that opportunity need to remember that that's part of the provision. The fact that I live exactly where I want to live, that I have this beautiful farm, that I have my children that we homeschool, that for their entire life, like I've seen them every day throughout the day. That's all a special blessing, and it's come at sacrifice. Like, yes, I can't work as fast as someone that is, a single guy that's living in an 800 square foot apartment or something. I need to work at the pace of my life, but I don't feel like that's a failure. I have a success in that I stepped down in faith. Like, God brought us to this house. Like, it's a whole nother story, but it was such a journey of faith. Like, we literally sold what we had. We got in the car, we drove 1,600 miles and bought a house that we had never visited in a town we didn't know anybody. And like, every once in a while I need to remind myself of that, because it's not that suddenly, like, land of milk and honey and everything was hunky-dory. But it's such a great blessing. And I think that that's such a mirror of how business goes, that even when I've reached this place that I wanted to get to, it's still work. We're not in heaven yet, so it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
So,
I want to reflect on this part of the verse. I wish I had the exact chapter and verse on it, but for his glory and our good, right? Sometimes we get too focused on our good, right? And we forget it's for his glory. So if we get what we want, we may not be able, like, hit for his glory. That's why we have to go through refinement, right? Because sometimes we're not prepared to show his glory through what we get, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's key, is like, let's not just focus on us. What's God? Where's my good? Right? No, his glory,
Yeah.
right? So I'll just use an example. So if you're a young Christian, you suddenly get tons of money, that can corrupt you, right? And it's no longer it might have been for your good at that moment, but it's not for his glory, because you're no longer looking to him.
Yeah.
You're no longer pointing people to him. You're just talking about yourself, right? So
Yeah.
God is good.
Man. Yeah.
I have a few other questions. Let's talk about the difference between, because there actually is busy marketing and then there's profitable marketing. Can you kind of talk about the difference between those two?
There is always more you can do, and especially, I mean, I feel like every day almost there's something else. There's like, oh, there's this new thing you can do on social media, or this new way that you can reach people, like WhatsApp and texting and email, and it just never ends. And you honestly, like, first of all, I want people to understand that marketing exists as an industry because businesses don't have all day to spend on it, right? Because you're doing whatever you're supposed to be doing. So I think that we've created this idea that if you have a business, you're supposed to be a marketing and sales expert. And you're not. You do need to learn marketing and sales to build a business, but that can't be what you're spending all your time on. And so it's very easy to get sucked into the busyness of, and a lot of it is what influencers are putting out there or people are telling us we have to do, of just creating endless content or just showing up all these places, and not that any one of those things is bad. Like, none of it is. All of it can be helpful. All of it, if it's aligned, again, to align with your business goals, will move you forward. You just can't do all of it. And the people that are doing all of it, which there's probably still things that they're not doing, have massive teams. You know, like you look at Gary Vee, he is the master of social media marketing. Hands down, he just is. He always knows what the trends are. He always gets ahead of them. He's built this massive business, multiple businesses, but he has 150 people on his staff that all they do is run his social media. That's all they
And
do.
someone just follows him around all day long, filming him.
Or like repurposing content or engaging with people or creating all these pieces of content that go out or whatever it is. Like, they are just 150 people on social media for one brand. And yes, he has this business behind him, but that's why everybody knows who he is. Yes, he didn't start out there, but we need to understand that when he says, oh, you need to go all in, you need to be omni-channel, you need to do all this stuff. Well, the average solopreneur or like new small business, whether it's local or online, does not have the resources to do that. And so we need to look at, what do we most need to accomplish? How are we going to reach the people we need to reach? And what resources do we have to do that? And the biggest thing is creating a system for it. Because if you're just showing up, you know, they say just show up. It's not just about showing up. Like, you need to have a purpose. If you're just going live to go live, which I know when lives came out, people would just go on and just talk forever. And people were like, wow, I can't believe it's live and I'm watching them. That is worn off, just in case you're wondering. But there needs to be a reason, because otherwise everything you're putting into that, if it doesn't have, it's like Dave Ramsey, where every dollar needs a job. Like, everything that you create needs a job, right? If you're not doing it that way, you are totally taking away from the rest of your business. And it doesn't matter how many shares you got or how many people on TikTok are following you or any of that stuff. You're not going to build a business. There are people with tens of thousands of followers, million followers even, that aren't making money really. They're just collecting followers and they're going viral, and maybe they're getting paid by Facebook or whatever, but they don't have a business behind it. And if the algorithm shifts or that platform goes down, like, anything that they do have coming in is gone, because they haven't created the structure of, this is why people freak out when the algorithm changes, right? Because they don't have a system of, oh, this isn't working anymore, but this is how I can apply it. And I have these other ways of following up with people. So while I'm figuring out how LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever is working, which happens within the, you know, the algorithm readjusts and you figure out how to do it. I have a system that's nurturing the people already in my network. And I have a way of reaching out to people. And I have a plan of like how I'm going to do this and who I'm going to talk to. And so I think a lot of the business comes from the social media and the content, honestly. And we've forgotten that relationship part of it. And we think, oh, I don't need to network. Well, I hate to tell you, LinkedIn is networking, right? The people are doing well on LinkedIn. What are they doing? They're networking, but maybe they're doing it in DMs, or they're going to like special events, or whatever it is that they're doing. it's still networking. It just has a different face. Like you're not driving to BNI at 7 o'clock in the morning. But you're still networking. There's not like I just drop it and do nothing and people buy from me. So yes, having a system, having a goal, and making sure everything you do, and there are things that you want to do. Like there are seriously things for marketing, and people would say, "Oh, Jennifer, you're a marketing expert. You're so." Well, there are things I want to do that I really want to do, but I know when the time constraints and the goals that I have and like what works and where I want to get to, I can't put the time into that because as great as it'll be, and maybe it would create more income, I need to focus on what I'm doing now to get that stabilized and make sure that all my systems are running, and that I have the time to fulfill what I'm selling, before I add these other things, because then they're just going to be distractions and take away from everything else.
Yeah, very, very, very good. Focus on the highest revenue generating marketing activities, right? The other thing I started thinking about when TikTok government was going to shut down TikTok and all those influencers were like panicking that they were going to lose all their money. There was one other point in there that I wanted to talk about, but now it escapes me. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Oh, the importance of marketing and sales, right?
Yes.
You talked because you referenced it a little bit ago. Like like average business, 2 years they're gone. One of the primary reasons for that is they were good at something,
Yes.
right? So they started a business. They reached out to all their family and friends, did the work for them, and they forgot they have to market and sell. They have to market and do sales after that, right? So either finding an expert like Jennifer to help you, or no, adopting it as a skill set. Yes, you're good at this thing, but if you're not going to hire someone to help you, you're going to have to get good at marketing and sales in order for your business to grow.
Yeah.
So,
and it's going to take a lot of work. You either pay with your time or you pay with your money, right? So you can shortcut it and have somebody train you how to do it or do it for you. Or you can invest the time and energy. And like, that's how I learned marketing. It wasn't like I suddenly, I wasn't born understanding marketing. I think that God created me and gave me certain gifts that make it easier for me. And I have a way of understanding things that like I can't explain my whole process. It's just the way my brain works. But at the same time, like I didn't know how to do social media when social media started to be a thing. I didn't know how to create reels. I didn't like there's all these things I didn't know to do. And if you stick in well, I don't know how to do it, or I don't want to do it. Well, you know what? A lot of business is doing the things you don't want to do. We think it's doing this thing that you love or selling this product that you're passionate about, but really that's like the passion project of it. If you want to make it a business and make it profitable, you need to do things you don't want to do. Not that your business should be drudgery and you hate it. If that's the case, then you need to reassess your priorities and see where things align and create more systems to make it easier for you. But there are things that you don't want to do, but they have to be done because that's what builds the business. And too many people come up with this great idea and they're like, everybody's going to buy this and it's going to be $1 million or $1 billion. Or I'm going to be bigger than Jeff Bezos. But then they create it and no one knows about it. And the sad thing is that probably some of those would blow Amazon out of the water. Some of those probably were going to be life-changing, like world-changing innovations. And they die just because the person didn't want to talk about it on social media or was too shy to go networking or, didn't want to do this and just expected people to show up and buy it. And if you build it, they will come. They say that never existed in the movie now, but regardless of that, like it doesn't. The concept doesn't exist. If you build it, nobody's coming to anything. Like even Disney World, that everybody they still advertise, they still have marketing. Like we all know what Disney World is, but they still market for people to go there even after all these years. So that's just something to think about. All those big brands that we think like, oh, they're just making so much money, they don't even have to think about it. How long have you gone and not seen an advertisement from them or not seen them sponsor something or whatever? So sales, marketing, and advertising are part of business. And if you don't want to do that, like you said, either you need to hire somebody or you need to roll up your sleeves and just learn how to do it.
Yeah. I guarantee you if Coca-Cola, any company like that turned off their marketing, they'd lose a lot of money.
They would. And you would think they would,
because
because they've been around for so long and everybody knows about them and they have loyal following. But nope, someone else would come on the scene and people would forget about it. It's true.
Mhm.
So
Yep, very, very true. Um, let's talk about business stages, for instance. So,
okay,
in the marketing
yeah,
aspect of it. So, when do you feel like businesses are ready to go into paid media?
that's a loaded question. I don't want to say it's the last step because it's not, because marketing never ends. You reach 8 figures, you reach 9 figures, like we just said, you're still marketing. You sell
Hmm.
something, no matter how big or small, you're still marketing. Like it doesn't end. It's one of those myths that I'm like, I'm going to break that myth sometimes that like, oh, you just market until they go, no, you market forever. Um,
Hmm.
but you need to have, like, be so clear on who your audience is and so clear on your niche. Um, because advertising is expensive. And what people don't realize is they think, I'll just buy a Facebook ad or I'll buy a
Hmm.
LinkedIn ad. It costs money and it's a science behind it to make sure that it works. And so those
Hmm.
ads you see that are doing really well and you're like, that's a great ad. There were multiple iterations of that. There was A/B testing. There was finding, like, refining and refining and refining the audience until it's like, oh, this is where it's working. And so just throwing up an ad does nothing for you. It all it does is waste your money. Like, if that's what you're going to do, just take the money and bury it in the ground or something, because it's not going to do anything for you. Um, but also, you need to have a funnel and a system. You need to know, like,
Hmm.
these are the people I'm targeting. Sometimes people get really good at, this is the people I want to talk to, and this is what they want to hear. But then they run this ad, and then on the other side of the ad, there's like nothing that happens for the people, right? Or they have nothing on their social media. So, like, I see this ad from Doug and I'm like, wow, Doug's this great guy. Like, I want to hear more about what he has to say. And I click on your Facebook profile and there's nothing, right? You don't have a business page. It doesn't see where you work. Like, there isn't even a banner. There's nothing, right? There's a couple pictures from your trip to Arizona, and that's like it. And then you think, well, why would I hire Doug? And you could be like the best kept secret ever, but it doesn't the advertising doesn't match what's
Hmm.
going out there. And that's why personal branding is important. But also, you need to know that, like, when people hear this and then they experience that and then they do this, then they buy that. And this is what I want them ultimately to buy, and this is what I can downsell them to. This is how I can nurture them through a product. Like, all of that needs to be in place and have something that can work almost like clockwork, right? That we know, and there's always, there's ups and downs in markets and everything, but you have a general knowledge of, if I talk to 10 people or I send this PDF to 20 people or whatever it is, then I can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people to do this next step. And if you don't know that, if you don't know what leads to what, and you don't have all of those systems set up on the back end, even the best ad is going to do nothing for you other than cost you money, because you're getting all these leads and you're doing nothing with them. And so your sales and marketing across the board has to be together. So, like I said, I don't want to say advertising the last step, but you need to go through an awful lot before you invest in advertising, because it's just really expensive. Experimentation is really what it comes down to, if you don't have that in place. So,
Yeah,
and I
and
think the harder.
you're right. You're so right. It's an ecosystem, right? The most successful ads are usually they have a really good, not just a really good ad, they have a really good
Yes.
funnel, and then when you go, they have some brand equity. You go and look
Yes.
around, or they have some testimonials, they have some brand equity.
Mhm.
Not to say that you can't like I think it really comes down, like, one of the hearts of it is your offer, right?
Mhm.
And if you have a really good offer, that carries a lot of weight, and you can
Yes.
test that offer before you run ads with
Yes.
organically.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
that
And
that that would be like, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Well, the offer is important because many times we get excited, right? Like, God put something on our heart, or we see a need and we're like, yeah, I'm going to fill that, right? And we come up with this offer and we're so excited, and it is exactly not what our people want, right?
Hmm.
And so I would, I don't bet, but I would guess that if you talk to any business owner that's been in business for 5, 10, 15 years, and you ask them what the first product was that they tried to sell, they are not selling now, right?
Nope.
There are iterations, there's refinements, and that's all part of the game. And so if you jump straight to ads and you haven't done that, like you're pouring a lot of money into something that you haven't even tested if people want, and it doesn't make sense. So just wait on that.
Yeah.
That's my best
So
advice.
yeah. So offer, and then the other piece of that is knowing the audience, right? The audience that fits the offer. Because sometimes you could have the right offer, but you're sending it to the wrong audience, and that's why it's not working.
Yeah, definitely. You are, and if your audience isn't, we talk about demographics. Like I know my audience is 35 to 48, and they live in the suburbs, and they eat cornflakes for breakfast or what. But that's not your audience, right? Like your audience is the person who has the problem that you provide the transformation for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to focus more on that. Like, what is the problem that you solve? And who are the people that have that? And it may not be as neat and tidy as they're in this one little age demographic and they live in, they're this socioeconomic makeup. It's really like, this is everything they've done. This is what they want to do. And this is what's going to get them there. And these are the people, like they're just ready for it, because there are people who could be ideal, right? They have the problem. They have the money. They have whatever they need. They're never going to invest in you because they're not ready. They don't have that background. Maybe they haven't tried anything. They still think they could figure it out on themselves. Whatever it is, like there's more to it than that. And the money, I think, is really the last, kind of like content's last step. Money's the last thing, because if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way to make it work. And our mutual friend Katie Horner always says, like, God's not broke. Like, if it's meant to be, God will provide for it if you do the work. But also, you need to sometimes be creative and say, this is really what I want, and I'm going to find a way to do it. And those are the people you want to buy into your coaching program or your services, because they're determined that they're going to make it work. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'll buy that, and then 2 weeks later, like, I don't want to do that. Like, you want the people that are committed. So that's part of that audience refinement, though, is figuring out what is that thing that makes people committed.
I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, and that is the importance of data. So a lot of times we come up with this hypothesis about who our audience is and what they might like, and sometimes we just have to put it out there so that we can get the data and the feedback, so that we can do that refinement, because often the market tells us something different than what we first thought. So
yeah, definitely.
Here's one more question. Okay. What's the first thing entrepreneurs should do? What's the first thing entrepreneurs should stop doing in their marketing?
They should stop doing what everybody else is doing. There's some of that. Like I say, we've had a big shift to video, right? Or there are things that have changed in social media marketing since it came out like 15 years ago. So you need to keep up with what's working and what people want to do. But it comes back to knowing your audience and knowing what your goals are. And so if you're always doing what everybody else is doing, you're not serving yourself or your clients. So if your client base are astrophysicists, and I don't know what problem you're solving for them, but you're solving some sort of problem that astrophysicists have, they probably aren't watching TikToks. Like I don't think that they're interested in just the fluff. They might want really in-depth podcasts. They probably want documentaries. They want very long, like 400-word, highly researched posts. Like that's what they thrive on. So if you're listening to, people just want trendy Instagram, that's the only way to make money, and 30-second TikToks where you're dancing the trending sound and all of these things, you could do that and you'll get views or whatever, but you're not serving your audience, and probably inside you're going to be entirely conflicted, because if you're serving astrophysicists, that means that somewhere inside you were an astrophysicist, or you have a heart for astrophysicists. Like there's something like that lifestyle you identify with and you want to serve them. And so if you're chasing these other trends, it's not going to work. Whereas if your ideal client is a mom with 4 kids that are all under 5, they're never going to read a 500 the 5,000 word blog post. They're not going to watch an hour-long documentary. Like, they need something that's 4 minutes or less that they can listen to while they're making peanut butter sandwiches or giving the kids a bath. Like, it's just, so even if it swung the other way and everybody's like, oh no, there was that SEO trend where it's like, make your posts as long as you possibly can. I used to do a lot of ghostwriting during those days. And so everybody always complains, like, and I do too. Like, I just want to get to the recipe, right? That's always the thing. I just want to, and you keep scrolling and scrolling. It's all the history of like vanilla and like how it was treated in the Middle Ages. And it's because I was one of those persons that's like, gosh, I need to come up with 4,000 words about a peanut butter cookie recipe. Like, what am I going to talk about? And so it was just a trend for SEO, but it didn't serve the audience as well. And that's why things have shifted in the SEO world, thankfully. But you need to know your audience and you need to know your gifts. There are people who are gifted with speaking. There are people who are gifted with visuals. There are people who are gifted with teaching. And that isn't to say that if you are very timid, then you just stay in your office and you never talk to anybody. You do need to stretch yourself. If you're going to be a business owner, you need to go out of your comfort zone and stretch yourself. But you also need to know, like, I know that I do very well when I can teach, when I can have people implement, when I can create structure and systems. So if I'm going to chase the trend of everybody's like, create a GPT, I could create a GPT, but that's not going to serve my audience. That's not going to bring out my strengths. So that's my best advice. What's out there? Yeah.
Adapt when necessary, but don't chase trends just for the sake of chasing a trend. You're going to get burnout because you're going to try and do too many things at once.
Yes.
I know people that everybody says email marketing is dead, but people that have been email marketing forever, they still get really good results because they've gotten really good at it, and that is like their audience is still receptive to that because they've built that audience.
Well,
so
they've built an audience that likes email marketing.
To get really good at something at a particular channel.
Yeah, that is
important.
And we can't all be masters of every single channel. It's just not possible. So until you have a team of 150 people that are just working on your social media, like, focus on the channels that you do really well on, and like I said, stretch yourself, but know thyself, really, and serve in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer, where can people find out more about you and what you do? And I think you might have a resource for them. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the best places to connect with me are Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. On Facebook and YouTube, I'm under Jennifer Elia on both of those. Facebook and LinkedIn, sorry. YouTube, it's Lead Funnel Scale, which is the name of my company. And then for a gift, I do have the Ad Readiness Quiz, because we discussed, like, when do you do ads? Like, should you be doing ads? And it's a really big question. And a lot of it depends. So I created a quiz for you to go through to see if your business is actually ready, and if ads would be a profitable next step. Because there are some businesses that need ads to get to that next step. So I'd love to share that with the audience as a free resource. So you can get that at leadfunnelscale.com/ads-readiness-quiz.
Nice. We're going to put your social links below and the link to the Ads Readiness Quiz. That is a very important aspect of scaling. Like, when you're ready to scale, ads can play a big portion in that. So let's see if you're ready to take it to the next level with ads by taking that quiz. Well, this has been awesome, Jennifer. One of the things that we always wrap up the Profitable Christian Business with is the free-form question, if you will. I always feel like there might be a question I didn't ask, or something that is sticking in your head right now. You're like, I wish you'd asked this, or I really want to share this. So this is your opportunity to do that. Are there anything that is on your mind that you'd love to share with the listeners?
Going with the trends and talking about, like, knowing yourself, I would say also know how things work before you hire anybody to do something or you invest into it. I think that the biggest risk that businesses put themselves in is when they put a lot of money into something that they don't know how it works. So if you feel like SEO is what's going to do it for your business, then learn how SEO works. Even though you may say, I understand it, but I'm like never going to be able to do it, right? But I at least understand how it works, because that protects you in two ways. First of all, you know that the person is doing the right thing, but also you know if it's right for your business. And part of that is knowing there's a lot of changes going on with laws and regulations. And there are people that will tell you, like, oh no, like, you know, we have this tool that'll message 500 people a day on LinkedIn and it's great. Well, on LinkedIn, that's technically against their terms of service, and they can delete your account and you never get it back again. And you may have spent 10 years building up that account. So I think it's important to do your research. I always say the first step is research. Do your research and know how something works, if it's right for your business, and is this, you know, again, in working in integrity, is this something that's compliant with the law in terms of services, or is this something that someone's going to sell me and they're going to make money, but I'm putting my business at risk just because they're a good salesperson? That would be my best advice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really really good advice. Just you need to at least on the fundamental. You don't have to be an expert in all the
Yeah.
things, but you have to have a fundamental understanding of how things operate, so that you can discern, right,
Yes.
whether something is being done correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So thank you so much, Jennifer. And until next time, everyone, keep moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out the Profitable Christian Business Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.